Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Plami, and in this episode of Plami's Thoughts On, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts on The Walking Dead's World Beyond premiere episode and its second episode because I've seen that much. I was actually initially going to do this video sooner to the release of the first episode, but I've just been busy with stuff with like university and with just being in this new place, I just haven't been able to do videos as much as I've wanted to. And that's kind of the same reason why it took me so long to record the Walking Dead video as well. Which if you haven't seen, you should check it out. I shared my thoughts on the season 10 finale, which I enjoyed overall, but definitely had some problems with it. But it was pretty enjoyable. So, for the World Beyond. Honestly, at first, like when we heard about this series, I actually didn't hate the idea. It always seemed to me like it was going to be this kind of like coming of age story, which I am a sucker for. But a few things that excited me actually quite a lot is some of the character descriptions, especially, or should I say, mainly the main character Hope's character description. Because if you didn't know, in addition to doing all these videos on my YouTube channel, I'm also a writer. I do write stories on Wattpad, although I don't really write as much as I want to. I have so many ideas and I want to write so much, but I just haven't been able to write as much because I want to try to first make sure that the YouTube channel is growing and everything, and then my personal life is preventing me from really doing from really writing in any of my free time, so I just don't get to write. So far I've only written 4 stories of a zombie story called Dead Inside. And the reason why the character of Hope called my attention is because the main character of my story, Dead Inside, is basically the exact same character, or I would say not the exact same because I don't think the main character of World Beyond is a lesbian, because the main character of my story is. But otherwise, in the terms of the name Hope, and in terms of some of the personality about her, it's pretty much the same. So it's kind of funny to me how they came up with the exact same ideas as I had, because I came up with it before them. Like I came up with the idea of my story in like 2017. I just haven't really gotten to writing it until, I kind of started writing it, I think, in like late 2018, early 2019. That's when I decided that I want to actually try out writing and see what I can do with it, and I've been pretty satisfied with how I'm doing. And I would advise you to check it out. It's linked in the description. You can check it out over on Wattpad. So that definitely caught my interest about this series, and after the trailers, like to me, it's always been the intrigue, because we know that it was going to be basically about exploring the world of The Walking Dead. It was going to be kind of like a adventure, kind of like. So I always expected that we were going to see much more of the world of The Walking Dead, and that's kind of what I wanted to see from this series. So I was never really too hateful about it. Like some people have complained that it's basically CW's version of The Walking Dead or whatever, or that it's just teen angst The Walking Dead. But honestly, I don't see all that shit. I think for some reason, Walking Dead fans are really toxic when it comes to kids or kids' character. I just like, even since the beginning of the original series, people complained about Carl when he was younger, when he was like in his early teens. Then they complained about Alexandria kids. Then they complained about Henry when he was younger and older. They've complained about Judith as well, and RJ. Now we're getting some complaints. Like, I don't understand what's with Walking Dead fans, but for some reason Walking Dead fans seems to hate kids. I don't get it. So I think most of the criticism with that are coming from that point of view. But in general, I just wasn't really hateful of the series as most people were. I was actually interested to it. Maybe cautious because of some of the Gimpo speak in the series because we already heard some of it in the trailers, but I was definitely interested in it. I definitely was hopeful that it was going to be good. And after seeing the first episode, it's pretty much exactly what I expected it was going to be. Not what I was hoping it was going to be, but what I expected it was going to be. It had, I wouldn't say a lot, but it had a decent amount of Gimpo speak, which really annoyed me because I hate Gimpo speak. It's so annoying, especially at this point. Like, the occasional Gimpo speak is not too annoying, but I think it was a little too much for me in this episode. And for those of you who don't know what Gimpo speak is, it's basically a term that the fan base of the Walking Dead universe have coined, which basically means dialogue, which usually is written by Scott Gimpo, who used to be the showrunner from season 4 to season 8 of The Walking Dead. And it's when the dialogue is overtly philosophical or very preachy, or when the characters speak in lots of speeches, or just when the characters speak weirdly. Like, it doesn't have to be tit for tat how people speak in real life, but when the characters speak in these weird ways for no discernible or explainable reason, that is what Gimpo speak is. And in this episode and in the second episode, there is some. I feel like in the second one there wasn't as much. And yeah, definitely the second episode was a little bit more interesting. But in the first episode, I think the one that really annoyed me, and it's the one that annoyed me from the trailer, is when the little guy character, I think he's called Elton, he's doing his taekwondo class or whatever, and he's saying something about fate or whatever, and I'm so done with that kind of shit. And the dialogue is just annoying. It's just preachy and annoying, and nobody speaks like that. I really don't like people when people bring up people don't speak like that argument, but nobody speaks like that. And it's not like it's even good dialogue. It's just annoying. It's trying too hard to be philosophical, and it's just annoying. At least in the second episode, it felt a little bit more natural. Like, the discussion the two of the characters had actually kind of made sense why what they said sounded like that. But yeah, the first episode wasn't really that exciting. I think the main thing about it that I can say is that it was kind of boring. Like, there wasn't anything outrageously bad, but there wasn't anything that really excited me either. The most exciting part was pretty much the cliffhanger ending, where we don't even know why they did what they did. And yeah, I'm trying not to reveal it because it was actually a pretty interesting twist at the end. But that's pretty much the most exciting part of the first episode. And I know that in the first episode they had to introduce the characters and set up a lot of stuff. And in that front, I would say they did decently. Like, the characters are all decently likable, I would say. Except Iris. I don't like her. The only moment where I liked her is when she was speaking with the psychologist, who was another really interesting character. I liked her quite a lot, actually. In that moment where the psychologist told her that she shouldn't be living for other people, that is the only moment where I kind of liked Iris. Other than that, she's been really, she was pretty meh in the first episode, and she's been pretty annoying in the second one. But other than that, I like Silas, who is the big guy with the longer hair. I like Elton, who is the small guy with the weird clothes. I like Hope because I like rebellious characters, so she's instantly likable for me. I like Felix, he's pretty cool. I don't really understand why some people have said that he's the talking gay character or whatever, especially considering what we have in the second episode, which I'm going to talk about a little later. But I don't really feel like he's the talking gay character. He is gay, but that's not his only character trait. Nor is it the only thing that the show focuses about him, you know? Then there's Hug, who people have already compared to Tara, and some people have hated her because she reminds them of Tara. And honestly, I never got the Tara hate, so I like her decently. She's not too interesting so far, but we'll see how she's gonna go. Then there's the antagonist character, Kublik. I think the actress is actually really good. She's probably the one that feels I don't know, the one character or actor with the most gravitas. I feel like she genuinely has weight whenever she's in a scene. She genuinely adds weight to the scene. Pardon my pun, maybe. Some people might think it's a pun. Um, she actually kind of has charisma and gravitas to her, so I definitely like her a lot, and I'm definitely excited a little more for the third episode because it's going to be focusing on her apparently, or at least feature her in an extensive way. So we'll see about that. But overall, it was kind of a boring premiere. It wasn't bad, as I said. I don't think it was bad. It was competently made. There were cool moments, interesting moments, but overall it was kind of like okay. It was pretty okay. I think that's the best way to summarize it. It was okay. It wasn't anything amazing, but it wasn't terrible either. Um, so I think for this episode, I'm probably gonna give it like a 6 out of 10. As I said, it was okay. It's kind of a little bit above average in terms of quality. Like it's competently made. There were some pretty shots in it, and it sets up a mystery at the end of the episode. So yeah, it definitely could have been so much better, but it's not terrible. So yeah, I'm not satisfied with the episode, but I'm also not too annoyed because I'm not super invested yet in this series. But yeah, we'll see. Luckily though, the second episode was definitely so much better. Like it wasn't crazily better, but it was better, and I definitely enjoyed it more. The main reason being some of the locations in it, and especially the big location of this episode that I'm gonna get into in a little bit. Um, but there were definitely some annoyances still in this episode. The two big ones being Iris as a character. She's just so annoying. Like she's trying too hard to be this kind of like a leader, know-it-all kind of character, and she's just so annoying. Like she's the one who let them out. She's the one who wanted to go and save their dad, which is kind of like came out of nowhere in the first episode, if you ask me. It makes sense after her talk with the psychologist, but I don't know, it feels more natural for Hope to be the one to want to do that, not for Iris, and it just doesn't work for me really that well. But because of that, she feels responsible about anything wrong that happens on the trip. So she feels like she needs to prove herself or whatever, and it's just fucking stupid and annoying. Like I hate hating on this series because a lot of people hate it for legitimate reasons, but that's so dumb. That's so dumb and annoying. Like I know these characters are meant to be inexperienced and sheltered kids, but this is annoying. This is just annoying. And the other big annoyance for me is the scene in the house in the tree house, where they're just pushing around a bowling ball and saying "Big Mo." It's just like one of those moments where you can fucking smell Gimple's writing because he thinks weird stuff like that are funny when it's not funny in any way, shape, or form. It's just fucking stupid. It's still not as annoying as Iris, but it's just unnecessary. Like the episode would have been better without it. But yeah, as I said, it's a much improved episode. I love a lot of the locations, like the backgrounds and the locations and everything in this episode are amazing. I love that. Especially, I love the idea of the blaze of Gory. Like, this is the kind of shit I love. Like, use the fact that you're in a zombie apocalypse. Think of creative stuff that you can do, creative locations. For me, that means so much, especially because the reason why I became a writer is actually because of The Walking Dead, and especially and specifically because at first, after starting to watching The Walking Dead and playing The Walking Dead Telltale games, every time I walked past like a building, bigger building, or just more of an interesting building, I would think, how would I protect this in a zombie apocalypse? So I started to come up with really cool visuals and ideas of how those places are gonna look in a zombie apocalypse. And then I was like, hey, why don't I come up with my own story for what I would do in a zombie apocalypse, and then it just kind of started snowballing from there, and I decided that I'm interested in coming up with ideas uh, for a zombie story, and then it continued growing into me wanting to write stuff for different franchises that I love and enjoy, and maybe come up with some of my own original stuff. But yeah, that's the reason why I'm a writer, because of the creative possibility of that locations in a zombie apocalypse and how you would defend them from zombies create. That's why I became a writer. And because of that, I love the location of the Blaze of Gory, like the whole idea of the Blaze of Gory, which is like a bunch of tires being lit up and keeping on burning for like years, as I understood. Like that's so creative and interesting. Like it's so cool. I don't know. I really like that. I like the name Blaze of Gory. At first, I thought it was maybe a little bit too Gimple speak like, but after having the character say it a couple of times and me saying it a couple of times and thinking of it, it's definitely become much more normal sounding. But yeah, I just love the idea of the location. So that's definitely the main thing that I enjoyed about this episode: the backgrounds, the locations, and some of the zombies, especially the bee zombie, the one with the beehive on his face and mouth. That's so cool. I feel like I still feel a little bit that they didn't really use it to its full potential a little bit, but overall I enjoyed that about it. Also, that moment in which they ended up climbing into the treehouse, and there was one shot in the dark during the night. I really liked that shot, and it really it kind of looked fake a little bit. It looked CGI like. I think they definitely used CGI for the. I think they definitely used CGI for the fireflies in the night shot, but for some reason it just looked a little bit animated, and I honestly don't hate that because it reminded me of the Telltale games and like the first episode with Clementine in the treehouse. So I kind of like that. In the episode, we also got more of a backstory for Felix. As we all knew, he was gay, and we all got a backstory in which it was shown that on the day of the apocalypse, or at least very close to it, his dad found out that he was gay, and they kicked him out of his house. And then when shit hit the fan, he went back to his family. But I didn't really get whether they didn't let him in, or whether they were dead inside a house and they were walkers. I didn't really get that for sure. Maybe I have to watch the episode again, but yeah, it's a pretty decent backstory, honestly. I've seen some people complain about it because it's apparently virtue signaling, and honestly, to those people, I'm gonna say you don't even know what that is. You know when this kind of shit is bad? Like when it's either tacked on just for the sake of having a gay character, like how J.K. Rowling said that Dumbledore was gay. That's a bad way of doing it. That's a bad way of doing it. Or when it's made so the only character trait of that character is being LGBT. That is also bad. Like it's good, it's fine that it's part of the identity, but when it's the only thing about the character is when it's annoying. So I don't really understand why people are complaining about this when it's fairly tame. Like for some reason, I've seen people say that the way Aaron in the main show is portrayed as gay is much better. And I actually disagree. I feel like Aaron's portrayal of a gay person is worse from a writing perspective and from a virtue signaling perspective, because the fact that he is gay doesn't really matter. He's just kind of like, the idea that he's gay is kind of like tacked on. It doesn't change his character in any way whether he's gay or not. He could have been straight and his character would still be pretty much the same. And honestly, I'm not saying that either of these ways of doing it is bad, but that's kind of like what I'm saying, that neither of these ways of doing it is bad. So I don't really think it's fair for people to complain about the fact that Felix is gay, and the fact that he is gay has played a huge role into his past and him as a person. And some people even complained about the dad being cartoonishly homophobic. Like, what? Are you fucking kidding me? He literally just said the F word once, and he just kicked his kid out of the house. That is fairly tame, honestly. That is tame considering all the shit that I've read online about parents saying shit to their kids and their reaction to their kids revealing that they are LGBT. Like, that is fucking tame. He just kicked him out and called him the F word once. You know what would be cartoony? The way I have written it in my story of Dead Inside. Like, I think it's in the I don't know if it's the second or the third part. I think it's the third part. Yeah, it's definitely the third part. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't checked out what I've written in a while. But the way I've done it in my story is cartoonish because I went all out with the screaming and the rage by the father being against his daughter being LGBT. So that is cartoonish. I still think it my story makes sense because I feel like that's how my dad going to react if I ever said to him that I was trans, like, or that I was gay, or that I was any form of LGBT, you know. I feel like that's exactly how he would react. He would be angry, he would scream, he would scream slurs, and that's pretty much how I've portrayed it in my story. And that is much more of a cartoony. Like that one, I can agree that it's kind of a cartoony portrayal of a homophobic parent. The way they've done it in World Beyond is really not that bad, all things considered. Like it's fine. It's pretty tame. I would say it's kind of like tame to the point of being bland, maybe a little bit even. But yeah, overall this episode was actually pretty decent, and especially now that I'm kind of rethinking it, I actually feel like it was better than how I felt about it at first. And I'm actually kind of excited to see where it's gonna go because it seems like the third episode is gonna focus on Kublik, like General Kublik, a little more, who is probably one of the more interesting characters. I mean, she's probably the most interesting character, the one with the most gravitas, so I'm definitely interested to see that. And if the quality keeps going up with each episode, that'll be really good. That'll be definitely make it much more exciting, because a lot of the times with shows, like, I don't really expect too much from the first episode, because in the first episode you have to introduce a lot of stuff. You have to introduce the characters, the setting, the plot, and all that jazz. So the first episode is never really, to me, the one that makes an impact. Like I definitely would give a show that I started watching at least a season, you know. And considering this show is like 2-season limited series, I mean, might as well finish the season at this point, especially because it also is gonna have some hints towards the Rick movies. But yeah, it's also in the Walking Dead universe, which I like, I'm in love with, and honestly, I don't care, as long as it's not dog shit, I will watch it. As long as it's not dog shit, I would watch it. Even if I'm bored to death, like the small moments of just seeing the backgrounds, like the post-apocalyptic backgrounds, is enough to satisfy me, enough for me to watch it. So my standards are not high enough, are not that high, really. But yeah, this was genuinely decent episode. Nothing crazy so far. I feel like they're kind of building the quality, and I hope that if not, I hope that they're building up the quality with each episode. But yeah, we'll see. As I said, this was definitely a better episode. I think for this one, I'm gonna put it at a 7.8 out of 10 because mainly because of the locations and the backgrounds again, but there was also a couple of moments, like especially the moment between Elton and Hope, in which they were talking about whether the fact that they're probably or dating, so that they are one of the last generations of humans, whether that fact bothers him. That was actually a pretty nice interaction between them, and something that we haven't really seen anybody talk about in Fear the Walking Dead. It's like something that you would think they would have talked at some point, but surprisingly, characters haven't talked about it. And I actually enjoyed that interaction of them asking each other whether they it bothers them or not. And I love how by the end of the interaction it actually is kind of bordering hope. Like that was actually pretty interesting. And another thing we kind of learned about Hope in this episode is the fact that even though she kind of tough on the outside, she actually cares and wants to be helpful on the inside. So that's honestly kind of cool and something probably I would have written for one of my characters for Dead Inside. Maybe the one character that is the other main character who I am yet to introduce. I don't want to spoil too much about that, but yeah. But yeah, it was enjoyable, and I hope the next episode is gonna be better, and I hope the quality is gonna be building up. But for now, it's still on the boring side, but there's some promising stuff, and it feels like it's gonna get better with each episode. But we'll see, we'll see. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. Also, check out the link in the description to my Twitter if you want to follow me there, and to my Wattpad where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you end up enjoying my stories over on Wattpad, or you simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to Patreon where you can pledge your support and help keep the channel going and help support me so I can keep writing the stories you enjoy. And additionally, but if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways, like liking this video, subscribing, and especially sharing this video with someone you think might enjoy it. And I think that's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!